What is going on, guys? It's the Mad Dragon. We're about 1 week away from the Rugby Championship getting kicked off. I'm really looking forward to actually being able to cover some international rugby again. I thought it'd be fun to check out the squads that have been named to play in the Rugby Championship. Going alongside the Rugby Championship, of course, we also have the SUPERBRU. I've done a whole video on that. You can go watch the whole video and find out how to join in if you don't know a lot about it, or if you already know what you're doing with SUPERBRU. I'll just drop the codes and stuff in the description if you want to sign up. It's free, it's easy, just jump in. It's a great deal of fun. Now, Southern Hemisphere Rugby, I've said it quite a few times on the channel. I'm never going to claim to be the biggest aficionado when it comes to the Southern Hemisphere teams. I'm based in the UK. I know a lot about like the Six Nations teams, and throughout having this channel, it's actually been a really nice way to learn a bit more about the Southern Hemisphere teams. So I thought what would be fun, rather than going through every player, because I'm sure there's a great deal of them that I'm not going to be able to talk about in great depth, thanks to trying to cover them in the club level, and Sanzar giving me a copyright strike for trying to cover some Super Rugby. So we'll go through a bit of a shorter format video. I'll do one video for each team, and we'll basically run through the team, have a talk about some players that I do know, and maybe some thoughts about some fun team mix-up for each of their first games coming up in the Rugby Championship. So, starting out then, we'll start out with the All Blacks. Now, the All Blacks, I believe, have won it for the last 3 years. We are entering the short form year this year, and the last short form year South Africa won. But New Zealand play South Africa in New Zealand, so that's probably going to be a really big boost for them. In terms of the team then, the team sheet that's been named, there's a lot of very big players in here, to be fair. I always wondered how this was going to work with so close to the World Cup. Do you go for a bit less of, you know, a top tier team just to avoid injuries leading into the World Cup, or do you load up on your big boys, get them so you're not going in cold into the World Cup, get them, make sure they're ready for the international stage? But New Zealand have gone for a pretty full-on team here. I also really like the team sheet for New Zealand. They've put it out in like an actual order that the players play in. Too many teams don't put them in the order of their positions, and it makes it really hard for people who don't know enough about the team to actually get involved in. So I do like that about the New Zealand ones. Before we jump into the teams, I will quickly reiterate, I am also, of course, based in the UK. I get at least one comment every year when I talk about the Southern Hemisphere teams saying how I get pronunciations wrong. I do try my best. If there's any of them that I get completely wild and incorrect, feel free to just drop down a phonetic spelling to help me learn myself. That's what it's about. Don't just be that person who goes, you got it wrong. Help people learn. That's one of the joys of rugby. So starting out then, Cody Taylor, Dane Coles, and Taukei'aho. Now, I believe Cody Taylor has taken some sort of record for like most tries scored as a forward in the Super Rugby, which is really nice to hear. But for me, I feel like I would still be leaning towards Taukei'aho for New Zealand as like a starter. I really like him as a player. He's got a great little burst of speed on him from a hooker, but he's got little Dan Sheehan vibes about him for me. So I would maybe be leaning more towards him, but obviously there's a great wealth of experience from the rest of the hookers in this pack. In terms of the props then, Ethan de Groot, Fletcher Newell, Nepu Laulala, Ofa Tu'ungafasi, Tamati Williams, that's one of the names that I'm not going to know. He's an uncapped player coming in. And finally, Tyrrell Lomax. Now, I believe Tu'ungafasi can actually play on both sides, tight head and loose head at prop, which is a really nice thing to add into the team. I'm not sure who would be favourites in terms of like props for New Zealand. I might be looking at someone like Ethan de Groot to start on that loose head side. Maybe you start Tu'ungafasi on the tight head. I'm not sure which one of the two he prefers, but certainly some good players in there. In the lock department, Brodie Retallick, Josh Lord, Sam Whitelock, Scott Barrett, and Tupou Vaa'i. Now, Scott Barrett can also play 6. I know he's moved to that flanker position. I tend to think of him as a lock department. There's some big names in here. Josh Lord's someone I haven't got to see a great deal from. I'm looking forward to see a bit more from him. But for me here, I feel like I would still be starting Brodie Retallick and Sam Whitelock as a 4-5 combo. Brodie Retallick, I saw him have some highlights over in the cheats, and he seems to be playing well. I think I would still stick with Brodie Retallick and Sam Whitelock. Maybe people would want to add Scott Barrett in there, and maybe they would move him to 6. I'm not sure, but yeah, I'd probably be sticking with Brodie Retallick and Sam Whitelock. But again, top players there for the lock department. In the back row, Ardie Savea, Dalton Papali'i, Luke Jacobson, Sam Cane coming back in. Really looking forward to see a bit more from Sam Cane. Finau and Frizzell. Now, Luke Jacobson is someone that I've been hearing a lot about. I haven't got to see a lot from him, but I believe he is crushing it at number 8. I think he can also play flanker, but he is dominating at number 8 at the minute. But you've also got Ardi Sarvea. So for me, I can't imagine having a team that you don't put Ardi Sarvea on at 8, given it's Ardi Sarvea. So I would probably have him at 8, but I can see maybe people, if Jacobson's in good form, maybe you want to be seeing that. I'm not sure if Ardi Sarvea has ever played flanker. If he has, drop it down in the comments on which flanker he's played before, because that could be a pretty dominating force. And I imagine Sam Cane being captain, he would also get on the field. I think Sam Cane and Dalton Papali'i both play open side, right? So I like Dalton Papali'i. I think he's a really good player. The first time I saw him in the Super Rugby Aotearoa, he was scoring tries left, right, and centre, but sometimes does get pulled up quite a bit for penalties and stuff. So I think Sam Cane would probably be the starter there as well as the captain. Scrum halves. There's some big talks around scrum halves. Aaron Smith, Finlay Christie, and Roygaard. Now, Roygaard is one of the lads, again, I'm going to be keeping an eye on. So many people really excited to see this lad in an All Blacks jersey. I would say Aaron Smith is probably your first choice, right? It's Aaron Smith. But I'm looking forward to keeping a bit of an eye out for Roygaard to see what he can bring to the team. Fly halves. Ooh, Bowden Barrett, Damien McKenzie, and Richie Mo'unga. There's a fight for the number 10 shirt. I do like Bowden Barrett. I like his kicking game from hand, but Richie Mo'unga and McKenzie, of course, were playing in that final for the Super Rugby. So I feel like one of them is maybe going to be a lead boy. The first game's against Argentina. I would maybe be inclined to give McKenzie a go. I think he's looking really good. I love his open running play with the ball in hand. He's had some fantastic counter runs. His kicking's been awesome. I think he was the top point scorer in the Super Rugby this year. Don't quote me on that one, because someone did tell me he's not technically the highest percentage kicker, but he might still be the top point scorer. But I do like Damien McKenzie. Going alongside of that in the centres, Geordie Barrett, Rico Ioane, Braden Ennor, Dallas McLeod. I'm going to go with McLeod. That's another name that is a little bit unknown to me. I think he plays in inside centre, right? So Geordie Barrett looks like then he's being named as centre again for New Zealand. I know he's playing 10 at the Hurricanes. He can also play wing and fullback if you want him to, but he looks like he's being named there to be in the centre partnership. I would maybe even like to see, as it gets towards this Argentina game, maybe even see Geordie Barrett play inside centre and have Braden Ennor in outside centre and put Rico Ioane on the bench, knowing that he can cover both wing and centre. Going up against Argentina, as you get towards the sort of end of the game, that team might begin to tire out, especially if it's been a really physical game. Bringing someone like Ioane on at centre, he's playing well at 13 from what I saw of him in New Zealand last year. But then also that he could cover wing if there was an injury situation. I think that might be a nice mix-up, and I'd like to see a bit more of Braden Ennor. I did like him. I think he's got a great deal of speed on him. And the highlights that I've seen, he's been doing well at the Crusaders as well. So I might be looking to give him a shot against Argentina to start out with. And then finally in the back three, Caleb Clark, who's been... I've seen some discourse online about Caleb Clark getting in. Not a lot of people happy about Caleb Clark being in. Narawa, I'm going to have a stab in the dark. Again, not a name I know particularly. For another uncapped player. Fainga Anuku, a name that I've really struggled to say in the past, but is playing extremely well. I've been seeing his highlight reel throughout this year so far, doing really well. Mark Talia also doing really well, but is sort of on like a rehabilitation thing, got a bit of an injury, but is named in the team. And then finally, Will Jordan. Sean Stevenson's been added for injury cover for Mark Talia. Now, again, I saw plays from him. Sean Stevenson's looking awesome. He's looking like an absolutely solid player. I don't know why just not added directly to the team. Maybe because there's so many other players that cover fullback. I mean, Geordie Barrett can cover fullback. Bowden Barrett can cover fullback. Damien McKenzie's fullback. Will Jordan's fullback. Maybe... I don't know if Sean Stevenson plays a lot of other positions, or I only know him as a fullback. Maybe they're thinking of going... All these other people can play fullback to an international standard perfectly fine, but they also cover other positions compared to just Sean Stevenson's just our dedicated fullback who's not going to move. Maybe that's why he's sort of been left on the side, but I think he's been doing really well. The back three, Caleb Clark. A lot of people very surprised to see Caleb Clark in. I think he's good on the attacking front. His defence has always been the thing. I've not been considering he's a big lad, he gets in, he's a strong guy, you expect him to just smash people. The defence for me has always been a little bit of the weak element, but he's certainly good going forward with the ball in hand. In terms of who you start for the Argentina game, I think as long as everyone was, fit and healthy and they could get on the pitch, I think I would go left wing, Flueiris Anuku. On the right wing, I would have Mark Talia, and then at fullback, I would have Will Jordan. And then, like I said, maybe you'd have, Rico Ioane on your bench. And then if there was an injury or it wasn't really going well enough for you. In fact, actually looking at it now, what might be quite a nice start is have Richie Mwanga start at 10. And then in your centres, you have Geordie Barrett and Braden Ennor. And then on your wings, you have Flueiris Anuku and then Mark Talia and Will Jordan at fullback. And you actually have Damien McKenzie and Rico Ioane on your bench. And between them, they cover 10, 13, winger, and fullback. So if you really wanted to mix up your game plan, if the match wasn't going the way you expected, or you had some surprise injury from nowhere, you've got basically the backs covered by 2 people. And you could even lean a bit more then into if you wanted to play a 6-2 on the bench, or you stick with your 5-3 and I assume you have Finlay Christie or Roygaard on the bench. Just to cover your scrum half as well. But I think that could be some good coverage. But a big team coming out from New Zealand, guys. Their first game's against Argentina, playing away. They did lose the first game to Argentina last year, but then had that very dominant performance in the second game. So one I'm really looking forward to. If you've enjoyed this one today, make sure to drop it a like. I'll be doing this type of video for all the rest of the teams. They'll be coming out over the next few days. And then as we lead into next week, then of course we'll be having the actual team announcements. We'll be doing the preview videos for the games coming up. And I'm also doing a little bit of the Mad Dragon Rugby Championship, playing it on Rugby 22. They'll be coming out next week as well. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel to keep up to date with all the latest videos. I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.